Well, today I'm going to respond to some comments in a way that will set some viewers' hair on fire. And I'm going to describe some comments that tend to set my hair on fire. To keep my hair from burning up completely, I'm going to intersperse those with some reasonable comments and my responses. So, if you're easily offended, now is the time to switch to a cute animal channel. Two of my favorites are Save a Fox and Unhinged Menagerie, and I'll leave links to those channels in the description to this video below. Hello, I'm John Foster. I'm a medical doctor who does Social Security exams. I've done more than a few, and as usual, everything I say reflects my own opinions based on my own experience and study, and not the opinions of the Social Security Administration or any other medical body. Now, the main group of people who view this channel are people who are either in the process of applying for disability or who are considering applying for disability. And from my experience, quite a few of those people are in very bad circumstances, either seriously ill or having serious money problems, even homeless at times. A common thing that I see is a person will come in for a disability exam. As the medical assistant is taking their list of medications, they'll give a fairly long list of medications and then explain that they haven't taken any of them recently because they can't afford the prescriptions. And I'm not talking about trivial medications. I'm talking about medications that are necessary to prolong their life or to relieve severe pain and suffering. So, one of my objects in this channel is to provide those folks with real, helpful advice. One of the things that really irks me is when I see commenters providing unreal, stupid advice. That's the last thing somebody who's seriously disabled and is applying for disability needs. And if you do that, I will delete your comments and ban you from the channel. Let me give an example. In the past week, somebody ranted and raved that you can get disability if you have HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus. That is completely wrong. That person obviously hasn't watched many of my videos because I've gone over that subject before. Here are the facts. If you simply are HIV positive, if you have the virus in your body, you will not qualify for Social Security disability. That's a popular misconception, and I've seen quite a few people who've applied for disability because they think they can get disability based on being HIV positive alone. You cannot. You can qualify for disability if you're HIV positive and you have severe AIDS, the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, which is caused by the HIV virus. When I was starting out in medicine and there was no treatment for HIV, that was common. Now, thank goodness, thanks to highly effective antiretroviral therapy, most people who are HIV positive do not have AIDS and will live a long time. However, they will not qualify for Social Security disability. And if you find topics like this interesting, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I generally put out one disability-related video every Friday. Now here's a reasonable comment. Somebody commented that they'd been to a disability exam for Social Security and the entire exam had taken about 5 minutes. I get a lot of reports about very short exams, and in my opinion, that's not adequate. the person was shortchanged, and they should write a letter to Social Security describing exactly what happened and asking for another, more thorough exam. I'm going to describe the basics, the bare minimum of what Social Security requires for a low back pain exam, because low back problems are the number one problems people with disability complain of. First, the doctor needs to look at the back. Does it look normal, or is it deformed or crooked? Second, the doctor needs to observe the person bending as far forward as possible, as far backward as possible, and tilting to the right and then tilting to the left, and indicate in the record if their range of motion is normal or restricted. Next, the doctor needs to check what's called straight leg raising. I generally do this with the person sitting. I ask them to extend either leg one at a time out straight and see if they can do so or not. This can also be done with the patient lying on their back. Can they lift their leg up straight or not? Next, the doctor needs to feel the spine, checking for tenderness, muscle spasm, and deformity. Finally, the nerves that go to the legs, that supply the feeling and strength in the legs, come out of the low back. So serious low back problems can cause problems with feeling and strength in the legs. And the doctor needs to check the strength in the legs, the feeling in the legs, and the reflexes in the knees and ankles. That's the bare minimum low back exam. There are more things you can check, but that's the minimum Social Security requires. Next, I continue to get very angry, upset commenters who believe that I know nothing about MRI scans of the spine. And I say that these folks are worshiping at the church of the MRI. And just like any religion, no amount of explanation, facts, or research will change these people's minds. In the description to the video below, I'm going to give 2 links. The first is to Dr. Brian Sue, a spine surgeon, a doctor who operates all day long on people's spines. He has a video called "Don't Read Too Much into Your MRI Report," in which he describes the shortcomings of MRIs of the spine. The other video I'm going to link to is by Dr. Nabil Ibrahim, who's a professor of orthopedic surgery. And his video is called "Imaging and Low Back Pain, Everything You Need to Know." He makes 2 interesting comments. The first is that everyone's MRI of their spine will show something, that MRIs of the spine are never read as normal. I disagree with that a little bit. In my career, where I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of reports of MRIs of the spine, I have seen a handful reported as normal, but that's very rare. Second, he says that MRI is not specific for disc herniation. That means if the MRI report says that a person has disc herniation, they don't necessarily have the condition. And remember, he's a surgeon. He cuts open people's spines, and he can actually see and feel if a disc is herniated or not. Finally, he says that an MRI that does not correlate with the clinical picture has no value. And I've seen this over and over again. I've seen people with MRIs that report all sorts of issues, and when I examine the person, none of those issues are present. And I've seen people with really bad back problems on their exam with minimal changes on their MRI report. The next comment I get that reflects a popular misconception and where the commenter's hair is on fire goes along the lines of, "I went through hell, so I should qualify for disability." Now, some people go through very difficult health problems, severe injuries, severe illnesses, and I feel bad for those folks. But disability is not an award you get for having gone through hell in the past. Disability is awarded for people who cannot work now. Every experienced doctor knows at least a few patients who were in very, very bad shape. Sometimes the doctor thought they wouldn't make it, and yet, thankfully, the patient makes an amazing recovery, either restored to full health or almost full health. Those folks will not qualify for disability. Folks who've been through hell with health problems and are left seriously impaired will qualify for disability. Next comment is a reasonable one. The person's considering applying for disability and wonders if they have to appeal and the appeal goes to administrative law court, do they need an attorney? Now, I'm not an attorney, and I always say, don't get your legal advice from your doctor, and don't ask your attorney to remove your appendix. Here's what I would do if I was applying for disability. If I was clearly disabled, if I met a Social Security listing, I would not engage an attorney when I applied, because the attorney is going to take some of the money that will come to me if I'm approved. I would engage an attorney if I was overwhelmed by the disability process, or confused, or if I had difficulties with my memory and thinking that made applying difficult or impossible for me. If I was going to go to court, I would not personally go to court without an attorney. And if you've engaged an attorney and are going to court for disability, you should be thoroughly educated before your court date by your attorney. They should go over what you should say and what you should not say, and give you examples of the typical questions the judge will ask you. If they do not do that, in my opinion, you should get another attorney. Now, my remarks on avoiding medical terminology and using plain language at a disability exam continue to set some viewers' hair on fire. They think that I'm personally insulting their intelligence. I recently got a comment saying I use medical terminology because I've worked with doctors for 25 years. Well, that's fantastic, and I'm not telling anybody what they have to do or don't have to do. I'm simply giving my advice, what I think will give you the best chance of having your disability application approved. Here's the problem. As I've said before, the time for a disability exam is limited, and most of the focus is on what the person's medical conditions prevent them from doing. I don't have time to go into a detailed history of a person's schooling and work experience and education. That's called the social history in medicine. Here's the limits of the social history required by Social Security. Question 1, how far did you go in school? Question 2, 3, and 4, do you drink alcohol? How much? Do you smoke cigarettes? How many? Do you use any drugs? That's it. In my experience, the majority of people I examine who attempt to use medical terminology use it incorrectly, and that inhibits good communication. I do get some people who use it correctly, but it's hard or impossible to know which people are using it correctly and which people are using it incorrectly. If you use layman's language, I'll understand exactly what you mean. It's your choice. The next question is not a hair on fire comment. A person asked, will a PET scan, a positron emission tomography imaging study, show the location of pain? And the answer is no. There are no medical tests that will show the location or whether or not a person has pain. No imaging studies such as X-rays or MRIs, no blood tests, no urine tests. We can see things on imaging studies that suggest a person may have pain, but we cannot be sure. As an example, when I broke my left collarbone in 1995, it was broken in 4 pieces. And I felt no pain, even though my X-ray was pretty dramatic. I felt no pain initially because I was in danger of drowning in the surf of the Pacific Ocean and I was trying to swim to shore. I only started to feel pain when I'd got safely out of the impact zone. At the turn of the century, doctors tried to invent a pain measuring gadget, which they called an O-dynamometer, but they failed, and we still have no scientific way to measure pain. Americans are obsessed with tests. The only way to determine if a patient has pain is with the best and ultimate test in medicine, which is a careful history, questioning of the patient, and a careful physical examination. The final hair on fire comment, which I get from time to time, is that I'm a mean old doctor who doesn't care about people in terrible pain. And to that I say, I'm not your mommy. I call these folks adult toddlers. They're looking for a mommy figure. We don't make toddlers work, and so these people feel that surely they shouldn't have to work. As I've explained in a previous video, doctors cannot care about your pain or problems as much as hopefully your mommy did when you were 2 years old, because doctors see too much pain and death. I've seen mothers whose child have died. I've been the one who's had to tell mothers that their child has died. It is absolutely devastating. It takes months or years for the mother to recover, and often they never fully recover. Now, multiply that experience by more than 500, which is my rough estimate of the number of people I've had who've died, mostly in the emergency department. No creature, human, mammal, or avian, would be able to survive that much trauma if they cared about the people who were in pain or died as much as their mother. Doctors do care about their patients. They want their patients to get well. They feel great when their patients do get well or when they can relieve severe pain. But your doctor will never be your mommy. Finally, I really enjoy reading comments. Please keep them coming. Please keep the suggestions coming. Unfortunately, recently I've had several suggestions for videos that were about conditions that I've never seen. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't want to give any false or erroneous information. It's one thing to read about a medical condition. It's a totally different experience to talk to and examine people with that condition. And I don't feel comfortable making a video about a condition where I've never seen a patient who's had it. Well, that's all for this video. Hopefully everybody's hair is on fire now, and as always, remember, if it happens, it's possible.